With Bitcoin continuing to range less than $10,000 from all-time highs, some analysts believe the $60,000 price target will see large profit taking, and above that for Bitcoin's price yields basically no resistance. But with Cardano falling out of the number 3 spot and the range getting tighter and tighter, is price about to get very, very interesting. And with whales continuing to hold on to their gains, this is about to get very, very big. Your host, Bean Dip, and Bitcoin has defended the $54,000 levels the last 7 days in a row. But the big question now is, does Bitcoin have the juice to unload all over the chest of the bears, or are the bears preparing for a backdoor bullish surprise of their own? You should make it like subscribe, turn these absolute time-sensitive alerts as well. If you're interested in joining our pool, make sure to check out the 2-minute video below and any other bonuses. Make sure to check the pinned comment below. And without any further ado, let's hop on it. Big. So we're going to be jumping into both Bitcoin and Cardano price because something very big in terms of Cardano's consolidation is very, very close. I've never seen a more clear pattern here. But as well, with Bitcoin, we've actually now bounced off of $54,000 again for the 7th day in a row. As you can see, if we zoom in on this daily chart, every single day we have at least touched the very tippy top of this channel here, right at about 54,000. So even late last night, Bitcoin came right back down to about 54,000. So the question is, how likely is it that Bitcoin could still see that move down to about 50, potentially 48K? However, what price would invalidate that? Wow, so if we start off here, we can take a look at some bullish hopium. If you look at the charts, all we have to go off right now is the momentum that's being driven in the market, said Erlam to Yahoo Finance today. You look at some of the shorter term charts, and potentially we're going to see a little bit of profit taking at the $60,000 level. And 60,000 is big because above 60,000, there's basically no resistance. We've been talking about this for weeks, but and that's why I've been saying for weeks that once we break 59 or 60,000, I think it's very likely that we just blow past all-time highs. Even though that's still $5,000 less than the previous all-time high, what I've been saying for weeks now is once we breach 59 and 60, then I think it's very likely that we just blow up to new all-time highs. Now keep in mind, we're not there yet. The other thing we've been saying on the charts for the past few weeks is that the $56,000 to $59,000 level for Bitcoin is big resistance. It's the last level. And as I'm recording, we're exactly right in the dead center of those two levels, 56 and 59. Currently, right at about 57.5 and blasting past 59. And obviously we have to include 60,000, just an extra $1,000. And it's that giant, big, round psychological level as well. So realistically, anywhere from 56 to 60K is huge. Over the next 1 to 2 weeks, it's still very likely that we could get at least a retest of 50K if, and only if, we do not concretely break 60,000. Meaning, if we're able to break 60,000 and we see the type of blast off that I think we will see if we do breach 60,000, and I'm not talking about like hitting 59,999.99 and then 2 seconds above 60K and then a sharp like $3,000 rejection. I'm talking about breaching 60K and then seeing that momentum pick up, because that's exactly what I think will happen. But there will probably be a few little knocks on the door of 60K first, especially at this point. 60K is, for all intents and purposes, it basically is the all-time high. Even though technically 65.5 is the all-time high, you can see why it would be fair to assume 60K is that real resistance, okay? This is where we spent all that time trading. We had one little wick up to 65K for mere moments. So really 60K is that big challenge. So the idea that we could be seeing Bitcoin breaking into new territory and the excitement that generates on its own, I think it's going to be enough potentially to see this rally continue. Basically, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin does have a lot of momentum. And as I've been saying, as soon as we break 60, I think we're going to be setting those new all-time highs. And again, that could be happening very, very soon. I think it will happen before this month is over. However, in the meantime, the big question is, if we get up to 60K, will we face that rejection first? And could we see that big move down to 50? Because again, cards are not off the table. The entire video yesterday was talking about a 1 to 2 week horizon there. The good news is that I think that would be like the last bear trap, the last fake out before I think we will enter new all-time highs. And again, I've gotten so many, and a lot of other people are getting this comment as well, like, why are alts not doing anything? It's extremely simple. And anybody that's kind of been around for the cycles, when Bitcoin really starts to move, altcoins do not move in large part. All of that momentum, all of that capital, all of it floods into Bitcoin. And then the big alt seasons that people talk about come afterwards, okay? It's what we saw at the beginning of the year. It's what we saw back kind of in the middle of 2020 as well. It's what we saw back in 2017. It happens extremely consistently. So people leave a lot of comments like, well, should I sell my alts and get into Bitcoin and then sell Bitcoin and then switch into alts and try and catch that move? First of all, I could never answer that comment. So if you're leaving that comment, I'm not going to answer it because, one, you're literally asking me for direct financial advice, which I cannot do that. But if you think you have the capability of timing something like that, because if there's one thing that's more consistent in crypto, it's that Bitcoin usually pumps, then it flows into alts, the bigger alts, and then it flows into the smaller alts. And then that's how we see that whole blow off top play out towards the end of the cycle. So that's a very consistent pattern. It's a very consistent thing we see. So if you think you can time that, then go ahead and try that. In other news, Bitcoin wallets holding between 100 and 1,000 Bitcoin have added and continue to add to their balances towards the end of last month. And they've accumulated a total of, this says $4.76 worth of Bitcoin, but I'm assuming they mean $4.76 billion worth of Bitcoin. I think they might have just left out a billion, left a B out there. Whales have been accumulating, and as they continue to accumulate, the amount of total circulating supply of Bitcoin that they hold has also increased. About 1/5 of the total circulating supply belongs to whales. And last night, this just covers the dip we saw last night to about 54, and it's just talking about bouncing back there. So actually, before we continue with Bitcoin, I wanted to just cover ADA really briefly here. ADA has a massive floor support level right at about 150. Obviously $2 as well, which is where this entire descending triangle has been forming, and then $1, which these are like the most flat, even, basic support levels you could really ask for. $1, $1.50, and $2. So, I mean, those are big round numbers, just super easy and expected supports, I guess. But you can see over the past, ever since the middle of August, so for the last 2 months, ADA has found support at exactly $2, but you can see it has found resistance in a very diminishing, in a declining way, which forms this descending triangle. And so normally descending triangles break down here. And as you can see, there's really not a lot of time left. This pattern will end before this month ends. So this pattern comes to a conclusion before the end of this month. And usually actually with these patterns, we actually see them break out before you get to the apex, which is right about here, which would be on like November 1st or October 31st here. So this pattern is going to be breaking out, but I would not 100% say it would be breaking down. All I'm saying is there's going to be a breakout because this pattern has almost come to an end. We have seen, in fact, we saw with Bitcoin about a week ago, we saw Bitcoin break up out of a descending triangle. We saw this exact type of pattern, and these patterns do tend to shift a little bit more bullishly than normal during a bull market, which I believe we're in 100%. So all that I gather from this is that we're going to be seeing this move happen, I think, within the next 7 days, within the next week. Again, I think there's amazing support right at $1.50, but I also just think the $2 mark is pretty well defended, not to mention a lot of ADA is staked. A lot of people will not be selling it. I know I won't be selling my ADA. So, if we would get a massive move, again, that is another buy the dip opportunity there. But for the most part, all I can see is that the clock is ticking for ADA. The price has been extremely boring for now 2 months almost. And yeah, we're going to be seeing a massive move there shortly. But more importantly here with Bitcoin, the question I talked about at the beginning, I kind of answered almost right away anyway. But yeah, I think breaching above 60K, concretely breaking above 60K. So, if we actually break 60K, actually just being able to hold there for multiple days, cement 60K as support, if that happens, then I would say it's very unlikely that we will get a retest of 50K or even below that. But again, all options are still open right now. It's still just as possible as it was yesterday that we see that move down, a potential wick at the very lowest, I think, down to the $48,000 to $50,000 region. But yeah, with that being said, 54 has been holding really nicely. Underneath 54, there's really not too much support until the $50,000 range. So for the most part, we've been holding at the first big support we need to, which is 54. But again, like I said, if we break 54, then I think it's very likely that next target would be 50K. And that's where we could maybe see a wick down to about 48. And like I said, I only think that becomes not possible at all if we can manage to hold a few days above 60,000 US dollars, because if we manage to do that, then there's basically nothing keeping Bitcoin down. And I think it could just go, it could start running again. And it could start repeating exactly what we've seen multiple times throughout this bull cycle, just, completely straight up waves of Bitcoin. And especially, I mean, if you guys look at all of the on-chain charts and all of the previous data, comparing Bitcoin this cycle to previous cycles, we're overdue. Like we could start blasting up any second and we would be right on time. In fact, we've dumped a little too long. So even if we get a 50K retest or a 48K retest or something like that, you're not going to have a lot of time to catch that, I think. Okay, like I said, I think it would be like a wick or something very quick. I don't think we're going to spend any more than maybe like 1, 2, 3 days max anywhere near that. This would not be a multi-week thing whatsoever. So again, timing that is up to you. But as I've been saying, I personally think that we need to get a move on. I think Bitcoin is going to start going extremely vertical soon. And I think it has to start going extremely vertical very soon. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, turn these MSC's absolute time-sensitive alerts. If you're interested in any bonuses or joining our pool, make sure to check out the links and the pinned comment below. And without any further ado, that's it for me.